2 years ago, I made a video about 19 Crimes Universal Monster Wines, and I have updates. New monsters have been added, but Dracula got a stake through the heart in the form of a lawsuit and is no more. If you picked up a bottle of 19 Crimes Universal Monsters Red Blend in 2023, you're lucky. They'll never make this again. 19 Crimes, a wine brand out of Australia, released their first Universal Classic Movie Monster wines for Halloween in 2023. And there were two, a Cabernet Sauvignon featuring Frankenstein and a red blend featuring Dracula. The labels glow in the dark, and you can use your cell phone to see augmented reality animations of the labels. So, why won't there ever be another 19 Crimes Universal Monsters Dracula Red Blend? Well, it's because of these guys. Vampire Wines. Vampire Wines, or Vampire Vineyards, has been around since 1988. I have a soft spot in my heart for vampire wines. I bought this back in the year 2000, if I remember correctly. Honestly, I don't remember a thing about the wine, but I still have the bottle. Back then, Vampire Wines, which is based in California, used to import wine from Transylvania and bottle it. Now they use wine made from grapes grown in California, and if you're lucky, sometimes you can find bottles with these adorable little capes. Anyway, Vampire Vineyards also makes a Dracula wine. And that's why they had a problem with Treasury's 19 Crimes Universal Monsters Dracula Red Blend. Vampire Vineyards, or more correctly Vampire Family Brands LLC, trademarked the word Dracula as it relates to wine, just like they did the word vampire. Obviously they didn't invent the word vampire and they didn't create the character of Dracula, but they own the trademarks as they apply to wine, as well as a couple of other product categories. A key aspect of owning a trademark is protecting it. And Vampire Family Brands are very good at protecting their trademarks, which makes sense given that the company was started by and is owned by a trademark attorney by the name of Michael Machat. I should also note that Michael Machat's wife, Lisa Dominique Machat, has written a vampire novel called A Walk in the Sun and an upcoming sequel, and last year they sponsored an event celebrating the 1960s Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows. So they're also contributing to the vampire lore. Vampire Family Brands launched their Dracula wine in 2007 and have released both red wines and sparkling wines using the name. So when Machat found out that 19 Crimes was releasing a Dracula wine in 2023, he filed a lawsuit against Treasury Wine Estates, owners of the 19 Crimes brand. The lawsuit was settled in March of 2024, but the conditions of the settlement haven't been disclosed. Clearly, though, the settlement did not include a license for 19 Crimes to continue using the Dracula name for their red blend. In early 2024, Vampire Vineyards created their own red blend using the name Dracula, which was released in January of this year. So these wines, the trademark, the lawsuit, these are all specifically related to the US market. If you're in Europe, you likely have access to legendary Dracula wines. And these are wines made in Transylvania by a Romanian winery, and they have several cool-looking labels. Because of Vampire Family Brands' US trademarks, the legendary Dracula wines aren't available in the US, but one day I hope I have a chance to taste through some of these wines. Okay, so let's get back to the 19 Crimes Universal Monsters wines. It's early October 2025 as I record this, and we now have 3 years of monster wines. Quick background on 19 Crimes. It's a brand owned by Treasury Wine Estates, an Australia-based company that's probably best known for Snoop's Red and Martha's Shard. For the past 3 years, they've done these special Halloween wines featuring monsters from the classic Universal monster movies of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So 2023 was the first year for the 19 Crimes Universal Monster wines, and there were two, a Cabernet Sauvignon and a red blend. Frankenstein was the face of the Cabernet, and Dracula was the face of the red blend. After Dracula was killed off by the Vampire Family Brands lawsuit, it was replaced in 2024 by the Bride of Frankenstein as the face of the red blend. If you haven't seen the 1935 Bride of Frankenstein movie, it's fascinating that the bride doesn't actually appear until 4 minutes before the end of the film. It was all about the reveal of the bride, which they hyped up in the trailers. And even with barely 4 minutes of screen time, her look, especially her hair, was instantly iconic.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
This year, the Cabernet Sauvignon featuring Frankenstein and the red blend featuring the Bride of Frankenstein are joined by a Chardonnay called Hard Chard featuring the Mummy. This is the first white wine in the 19 Crimes Halloween lineup. The Mummy movie was released by Universal Studios in 1932, and rather than bandages, his most distinguishing features are his fez and his super wrinkly skin.
Fezzes are cool.
He isn't a mindless monster shuffling around with arms outstretched moaning. He's an intelligent and rather tragic figure.
You have studied our ancient arts, and you know that you cannot harm me. You also know that you must return that scroll to me or die.
The 19 Crimes label appears to be most strongly inspired by the movie's poster. I'm really curious about this Hard Chard. The alcohol is 16%, whereas most Chardonnays are generally around 12 or 13%. So the word hard is obviously a reference to the wine's high alcohol content. We're going to taste the entire 2025 lineup here in a minute, but first let's look at the evolution of the package over the last 3 years. In the first year, the Cabernet Sauvignon had a vintage date, 2021. The second year, the Cabernet Sauvignon still featured Frankenstein, but it lost the vintage date. That means the wine could be a blend of more than one vintage, or the winery could use this label for multiple vintages. Also in the second year, the back label saw some minor tweaks, including the addition of the California CRV wording to comply with a law that went into effect January 1st, 2024, expanding California's redemption value recycling program to include wine containers. There are also a couple of other minor formatting changes, but moving on to 2025, the front and back labels for this year are identical to the ones from 2024. The only difference between 24 and 25 is that 19 Crimes used to use this black frosted bottle, and now they've switched to this glossy black bottle, which is also about 1/4 of an inch shorter. One other difference between these two bottles is the punt, which is the divot on the bottom of the bottle. For the newest one is not nearly as deep as it is for the previous frosted version. The same is true for the 2024 and 2025 red blends featuring the Bride of Frankenstein. Identical front and back labels, but with frosted bottle in 2024 and glossy bottle this year. As with previous years, all the front labels still glow in the dark and feature augmented reality animations you can see using your cell phone. Let's start with the Mummy Hard Chard. It's a Chardonnay and it's from southeastern Australia but bottled in California. When I see the word Chardonnay, my first question generally is this going to be a buttery, oaky style, or more of a minerally or maybe a fruit-driven style, or maybe something in between? Got ripe pineapple, a little bit of citrus, and it definitely smells like Chardonnay, but I'm not really getting any oak. And it's actually pretty well balanced for being so high alcohol. I think the alcohol adds a little bit of almost sweetness to it, and this is not chilled at all. This is just room temperature, and it's actually very pleasant. I was kind of surprised with these wines that have gimmicky labels, because clearly it's the label that they're relying on to sell the wine. But when I actually pour the wine in the glass, I was almost expecting something to be flawed, like the brand story needed to make up for a lack of quality. But I mean, this is a $10 bottle, and so for $10, it's a pretty decent Chardonnay. Let's do the red blend next. So none of these wines have vintage dates on them anymore, and I'm not sure if that's because they wanted to be able to blend multiple vintages together in these bottles, or if it's just because they wanted to print one big batch of labels and not have to worry about reprinting year after year. But you know, it's not uncommon for wines at this price point to not have a vintage date. This is a red blend, so all that we know is that it's red. We have no idea what different grape varieties might be. What different grape varieties might be part of this blend, but yeah, this Dachshund Corkscrew is more cute than functional. There we go. Alright, so the red blend that 2 years ago was Dracula, last year became Bride of Frankenstein, and still Bride of Frankenstein. So right off a fair bit of oak. So there's some cherry, a little bit of strawberry, maybe just a little bit sweet. Nice tannins though, good mouthfeel. It's got a good structure to it. Yeah, so again, can't complain about that. Alright, and finally we have the Cabernet Sauvignon featuring Frankenstein. Definitely different from the Frankenstein's Bride from the red blend. This one's a little bit greener, almost herbal. And the tannins are a lot more drying. Yeah, and there is some greenness on the finish. It's not unpleasant. I actually like a Cabernet with a little bit of herbal character. So my final thoughts on these wines. The Chardonnay, I think this is the bottle that you open while you are getting ready for your guests to arrive. It's especially with the high alcohol content, it can get you ready to deal with people. But it's also just it's a very nice wine. It's well balanced, even given the high alcohol content. A lot of nice Chardonnay character, definitely more on the ripe side, tropical fruit side, and not the big barrel aged malolactic fermented, not the oaky buttery kind of a Chardonnay. Pop this open while you're getting ready for guests to arrive. I think the Bride of Frankenstein with the nice rich tannins and the fuller mouthfeel, this is a good standalone wine. And so while you are preparing the barbecue and cooking your steak, this is the wine to have. But then when it comes to sitting down to enjoy the steak, I think the Frankenstein Cabernet Sauvignon with the more drying tannins and the little bit of green character make this a much better fit for pairing with a nice juicy steak. So that brings us up to date with the 19 Crimes Universal Movie Monster Halloween wines. I'm looking forward to seeing what monsters might be added next year. I'm actually hoping for a whole new lineup of 3 different Universal monsters, maybe to celebrate the opening of the Dark Universe land at Universal Studios' new Epic Universe theme park in Orlando, Florida. My vote would be for Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Wolfman, and the Phantom. But we'll have to wait until next year to find out. Before I close, I wanted to mention that I'm currently running an autumn special on my website, ericmartellawines.com, for a $25 savings on shipping with the code FALL25. That makes it the perfect time to check out all of my dry, muscadine fine wines. Certain restrictions and limitations apply. For example, you must be at least 21 years of age to order, and they can only ship to certain states within the United States. See ericmartellawines.com for details. So let me wish you a happy Halloween, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.